Struggle MD. Let's just get right into it. Talking about backdoor bleeding. Let's just get right into it. No messing around, no pretenses, no nothing. This is a life-saving issue. If you understand what I'm talking about here in the next few minutes, you might be able to use it to save a life. I used it last week to save a life. We did, a group of us. Talking about backdoor bleeding. Talking about celiac artery, SMA. Talking about the duodenum. Talking about duodenal bleeding, duodenal ulcers, peptic ulcer disease. All right. One thing I've seen as I've been out in the community now, almost 4 years, peptic ulcer disease is common. A lot of people are in chronic pain, and a lot of those people take NSAIDs, and they take high doses of NSAIDs chronically. And what happens is they develop ulcers. They develop ulcers in their duodenum. This is the part of the gut that's just past the stomach. And what happens is over time, those medicines basically break down that inner lining of the duodenum. It causes an ulcer. So let's just break that down a little bit. All the tissues in the body are essentially laminates. All right. They're basically laminates. Just like laminated wood. They're just layers fused together. And basic structure of any organ in the body is basically there's going to be 3 layers. There's going to be mucosa on the inside. That's kind of a soft, delicate inner lining. And there's the serosa, which is the outer lining. And then the middle, we use Latin, so we call it the media. All right. So those are the layers of the duodenum. If you develop an ulcer, you're taking NSAIDs chronically. That layer of the mucosa breaks down. It exposes that adventitious layer, that middle layer. There might be a blood vessel coursing through there. It starts bleeding, and that person can die from that. And I have seen patients, and we have seen patients dying from this disease. So what can we do as IR about it? Well, we have a pretty good treatment. We have a pretty good treatment for duodenal bleeding, and it's the front door treatment. So we do angiography, femoral approach, or maybe radial. Hook the celiac artery. We go out across the common hepatic. We get into the gastroduodenal artery, going inferiorly. And we get into this vessel which supplies the distal stomach, duodenum, and paraduodenal region. And we coil embolize it. Pretty straightforward procedure, pretty safe procedure. If you have experience, you can do this. Pretty fast procedure. And that usually is it. That can usually decrease the pressure on that duodenum enough that you can stop serious bleeding. But there's a back door, and that's what I started out with. This was the back door bleeding. So there's basically you shut the front door, you go celiac artery embolized GDA, but that still leaves a back door. The back door is a little more complex. The back door is either at the same session, or you bring the patient back when they rebleed on a different session. You come in, I prefer groin, you come in, you hook SMA, and you investigate the pancreatico-duodenal arcade vessels. Typically, this is the first vessel that courses sort of lateral from the SMA, but it can be, there can be anomalous origins, or there can be variations in the anatomy. So it can be tough to find this vessel. But basically, you have to find your way out to this vessel, which basically inferiorly comes up along the paraduodenal region and anastomosis with the top of the GDA. So, for example, sometimes when you're doing this, you can actually see the GDA coils, and you can see your microcatheter sort of coming out to that same region. And then basically, again, the closing the back door just means that you investigate this artery, you catheterize this artery, and then you embolize this artery using whatever embolic you like to use. Coils, could use glue, you could use large particles. But basically it's very important that you close the front door, and then you close the back door, and then hopefully that provides a durable result for the patient. This is all stuff that, I think it's hard to find in a textbook. I never saw it in a textbook. Where did I see this stuff? I saw it in fellowship. I remember working with DK, and he taught me this. He showed me this, and we experienced this. And in fact, we experienced it then the same way I'm experiencing it now. You see a patient, they have peptic ulcer disease, they have duodenal bleeding. You treat them with a GDA embolization. They continue to bleed. You bring them back, and you come in and you close the back door. You access the SMA. You have an idea of what you're doing. You don't know it all the way through, but you have an idea. You catheterize that vessel. You find those IPDA, those pancreatic duodenal arcade vessels, and you make a plan to close them off and embolize them. And in that moment, as an IR, you could save somebody's life. I've seen it happen multiple times. And if you have a little knowledge of this entity, of duodenal bleeding and kind of the two ways to sort of attack it angiographically, you can put an end to that bleeding. You can put an end to that instability in that person's life. You can save their life, and you can make it so they make their way safely home. So that's all. Just wanted to get into that. Backdoor bleeding, what do I mean? I'm talking about celiac and SMA and what I just discussed. And keep it in mind. Keep it in mind. If you hear about a patient upper GI bleed, if there is good localization to the duodenum, then just consider those vascular territories, and you could be there to save somebody else's life. That's all I got for this one. Struggle MD.